Kung Fu Panda, released in 2008, featured an ensemble voice cast that brought remarkable depth, humor, and emotional resonance to the film, transforming an animated story about a clumsy panda into a universally relatable and entertaining adventure. The lead role of Pa, the enthusiastic but initially awkward panda, was voiced by Jack Black, a performer already widely known for his energetic comedic style and distinctive singing voice. Black had a background that uniquely positioned him for this role, blending musical comedy, theatrical flair, and improvisational humor. His previous work included major roles in live-action comedies and musical performances, and his ability to seamlessly mix humor with genuine emotion helped make Po a character that audiences could both laugh with and root for. Black's vocal delivery was characterized by exuberant enthusiasm, frequent improvisational flourishes, and a nuanced balance between self-doubt and determination. He was able to take the script's humor and emotional beats and make them feel organic, giving Po a very human quality despite being an anthropomorphic panda. This performance contributed significantly to Black's career as a versatile voice actor and further expanded his influence within animated features, showing a side of his talent that extended beyond live-action performances. The mentor figure, Master Shifu, was voiced by Dustin Hoffman, an actor with a storied career spanning decades of film, theater, and television. Hoffman brought an unexpected depth and gravitas to the animated character, whose discipline and wisdom form the emotional and philosophical anchor of the story. Hoffman's experience with complex character work allowed him to convey subtle nuances in Shifu's journey from stern teacher to supportive mentor. The emotional weight of Shifu's character, particularly his internal struggles with doubt and responsibility, was elevated by Hoffman's precise and thoughtful vocal performance. The actor's participation also added a layer of credibility and appeal for adult audiences, bridging the gap between child-friendly comedy and more sophisticated thematic content. Angelina Jolie voiced Tigress, the strongest and most disciplined member of the Furious Five. Jolie's previous work had largely centered on live-action films and humanitarian efforts, but her contribution to Kung Fu Panda showcased her ability to adapt her commanding presence into a vocal performance for animation. Her delivery emphasized Tigress's stoicism, strength, and occasional vulnerability, providing contrast to Po's exuberance and highlighting the character's layered personality. Jolie's role demonstrated how actors primarily known for live-action roles could bring a level of authority and nuance to animated storytelling, enriching the dynamics of the ensemble cast. Jackie Chan voiced Monkey, a lively and acrobatic member of the Furious Five. Chan, renowned worldwide for his martial arts expertise and action comedy performances, brought authenticity to Monkey's movements, even in a purely vocal form. Chan's natural comedic timing, combined with his physicality in martial arts, translated into vocal inflections that suggested motion and energy, enhancing the believability of the character. Chan's inclusion also contributed to the film's appeal across international audiences, particularly in Asia, by integrating a familiar and beloved figure into the story. His performance emphasized the importance of timing, rhythm, and physical expression in animated voice acting, showing how performers can carry elements of their live-action persona into an animated world. Sean Astin voiced Shaggy Dog, a minor but memorable character whose friendly and easygoing nature contrasted with the more intense personalities of the Furious Five and Po. Astin's previous experience in both live-action and voice acting allowed him to inhabit Shaggy Dog with warmth and comedic timing. The role added dimension to the ensemble and provided subtle comic relief, demonstrating how secondary characters in animation can enrich storytelling when voiced by actors capable of bringing distinct personality traits through voice alone. Lucy Liu voiced Viper, a gentle and supportive member of the Furious Five. Liu's background in martial arts action films and dramatic roles lent her performance both grace and subtle intensity. Her vocal work emphasized Viper's agility, kindness, and understated courage, complementing Tigress's more overt intensity and Po's clumsy enthusiasm. Liu's performance highlighted the importance of carefully calibrating vocal tone, rhythm, and expression to convey both personality and emotion, even in a supporting role. Gary Oldman voiced Lord Shin, the villain of the story, whose complex backstory and ambitious personality required a vocal actor capable of layering menace, charm, and vulnerability. Oldman, known for his mastery of dramatic and villainous roles, brought a theatrical intensity to Shun that elevated him beyond a simple antagonist. The performance balanced threatening ambition with subtle insecurity, creating a character who was intimidating yet psychologically engaging. Oldman's involvement demonstrated how a strong vocal presence can create a memorable villain whose motivations resonate with audiences. In addition to the main voice cast, Kung Fu Panda benefited from a skilled creative team whose vision shaped every aspect of the film. The directors, Mark Osborne and John Stevens, collaborated to blend comedy, action, and emotional storytelling in a visually dynamic way. Osborne, known for his work in stop-motion animation and character-driven stories, and Stevens, experienced in both animation direction and story development, established a narrative rhythm that balanced humor with dramatic tension. They fostered an environment that encouraged improvisation from voice actors, allowing performances like Jack Black's to influence the animation itself. The screenplay was developed by Jonathan Abel and Glenn Berger, who crafted dialogue that was witty, heartfelt, and tailored to each character's personality. Their writing ensured that the humor appealed to children while also including subtler jokes and emotional nuances that adults could appreciate. The writer's understanding of pacing and comedic timing contributed to sequences that were both narratively efficient and emotionally resonant, providing a strong foundation for the voice cast to build upon. Animators, including key figures such as Sharon Callahan and Michelle Wright, translated these performances into movement, expression, and timing on screen. Callahan's work in visual storytelling, lighting, and environmental design helped create scenes that were visually compelling while supporting the emotional narrative. The animators collaborated closely with the voice actors, often timing gestures and expressions to match vocal inflections, creating a seamless integration of performance and animation. Storyboards played a critical role in this process, with artists sketching scenes that reflected the rhythm, humor, and emotional beats of the script, ensuring that each frame conveyed the intended mood and storytelling intention. Music was another vital component, with composer Hans Zimmer providing a score that fused traditional orchestration with Eastern instrumentation, underscoring both the action sequences and emotional moments. Kung Fu Panda made an immediate and lasting impression on global popular culture, resonating across age groups, national boundaries, and media formats. The film's blend of humor, action, and heartfelt storytelling allowed it to transcend the usual boundaries of children's animation, earning a place not only in family entertainment but also in broader cultural discussions about identity, self-confidence, and perseverance. The character of Pa, an unlikely hero who starts out clumsy, insecure, and overweight, became an emblem of self-acceptance and determination, representing the idea that personal growth and success are attainable regardless of initial limitations. This message resonated strongly with younger audiences, who saw in Pa a reflection of their own struggles and aspirations, while adults found the film's humor, emotional complexity, and philosophical undertones appealing on a deeper level. The universal appeal of Poe's story contributed to the film's rapid international success and enduring relevance in the years following its release. One of the most significant cultural impacts of Kung Fu Panda was the way it shaped children's media and family-oriented storytelling. Prior to its release, many animated films followed traditional princess-centered or adventure-driven plots, often emphasizing either comedy or action. Kung Fu Panda combined both in a seamless narrative, showing that animated stories could carry complex messages while remaining visually and emotionally engaging. The success of this approach inspired other studios to explore similar blends of humor, heart, and action, influencing animated films released in subsequent years. Elements such as a protagonist overcoming personal doubt, a diverse ensemble of supporting characters, and a strong moral backbone became increasingly common in children's animation, signaling a shift in the genre toward more multifaceted storytelling. Beyond its narrative influence, Kung Fu Panda contributed to global discussions about representation, cultural inspiration, and identity. The film draws heavily from Chinese martial arts, philosophy, and iconography, and although it presents a fictionalized and anthropomorphized version of these cultural elements, it exposed international audiences to aspects of Eastern storytelling and visual aesthetics in a way that was both accessible and entertaining. This sparked conversations about the authenticity and adaptation of cultural motifs in animation, and encouraged other studios to explore cross-cultural narratives while maintaining sensitivity to source traditions. The film's depiction of characters like Sherfu, the Furious Five, and Pa himself offered audiences representations that were rooted in a specific cultural aesthetic without alienating global viewers, demonstrating the potential for animated media to bridge cultural gaps while delivering universal themes. The influence of Kung Fu Panda extended to viral trends, music, and merchandise. Lines of toys, action figures, plush versions of Purr, and figurines of the Furious Five became highly popular, creating waves of merchandise that engaged children beyond the theater. Themed clothing, school supplies, and collectible items reinforced the film's presence in everyday life, allowing fans to interact with the story's characters in tangible ways. Music from the film, particularly tracks that accompanied training montages or action sequences, became recognizable beyond the movie itself, with orchestral themes and rhythmic motifs inspiring covers, remixes, and performances by both amateur and professional musicians. These musical elements were often incorporated into viral videos and internet content, further embedding the film into popular culture and digital media spaces. Theme park adaptations and interactive experiences also contributed to the film's cultural footprint. Characters from Kung Fu Panda appeared in live shows, parades, and meet-and-greet events, allowing fans to engage with the story in physical spaces. Immersive environments inspired by the Valley of Peace and the Panda Village offered children and families opportunities to experience aspects of the film's world firsthand. Such adaptations reinforced the film's visibility and entertainment beyond the cinematic screen and contributed to the perception of Kung Fu Panda as not just a movie, but a cultural phenomenon that extended into lifestyle, recreation, and collective experience. The film also played a role in shaping conversations about generational values. Poe's journey emphasized perseverance, embracing individuality, and the importance of mentorship, themes that resonated across generations. Children were drawn to the excitement of martial arts sequences and the humorous antics of Pa, while parents and older viewers could engage with philosophical reflections on destiny, purpose, and self-discovery. The generational resonance of these themes fostered family discussions, reading companion materials, and even inspired personal reflection about personal goals and the pursuit of excellence, demonstrating how an animated film could have a meaningful impact beyond entertainment alone. Social media and internet communities amplified Kung Fu Panda's cultural influence. Fans created art, memes, and video tributes celebrating Po and other characters, and these creations often highlighted both the comedic and emotional aspects of the story. Online forums and fan communities became spaces for discussion about character arcs, favorite moments, and deeper philosophical implications, transforming the film from a passive viewing experience into an active participatory culture. Cosplay events and fan gatherings further strengthened this engagement, with enthusiasts recreating costumes and props from the film, celebrating its aesthetic and thematic elements, and building a shared community around appreciation for the story. The film's approach to humor and storytelling also left a lasting mark on subsequent media. The balance between slapstick comedy, witty dialogue, and subtle moral lessons demonstrated that family entertainment could be intelligent and engaging without sacrificing accessibility. This inspired writers, animators, and producers to craft narratives that treated children as capable of understanding complex emotions while still enjoying physical comedy and visual spectacle. The enduring popularity of Kung Fu Panda characters in media, games, and promotional campaigns reflects the effectiveness of this approach, showing how a well-executed animated film can become a touchstone across multiple platforms and remain relevant for years. In addition, Kung Fu Panda helped normalize the inclusion of diverse character archetypes and cultural aesthetics in mainstream animation. The making of Kung Fu Panda offers a fascinating look into the complex and collaborative process of producing a high-quality animated feature, highlighting the innovation, creativity, and problem-solving that occurred behind the scenes. The film's production involved a combination of traditional animation principles, cutting-edge computer-generated techniques, and meticulous attention to visual storytelling, resulting in a world that felt both fantastical and emotionally resonant. One of the most notable aspects of the production was the approach to voice recording. Unlike many animated films where actors record their lines individually, Jack Black and several key cast members were encouraged to record together when possible. This allowed for improvisation, overlapping dialogue, and natural conversational rhythms, giving Pa and other characters a sense of spontaneity and life. Black, in particular, was known for his improvisational energy, and the directors and sound engineers often allowed him to explore alternate lines and reactions, some of which were ultimately incorporated into the final cut. This method required close coordination between the sound team and animators, as timing, inflection, and pauses had to be reflected accurately in the character movements, facial expressions, and scene pacing. Storyboarding was another crucial element of the behind-the-scenes process. Before a single frame was fully animated, extensive storyboards mapped out each sequence, blending visual storytelling with narrative beats and comedic timing. Storyboard artists worked closely with the directors and writers to explore the rhythm of each scene, experimenting with camera angles, character gestures, and the interplay between action and dialogue. These storyboards were constantly revised, reflecting input from multiple departments. For example, sequences like Poe's training montages required iterative adjustments to balance humor, action, and emotional growth. Initially, some of these scenes were conceived with longer comedic beats, but during development, it became clear that condensing certain actions would create a more energetic and engaging rhythm for audiences of all ages. Storyboard revisions also accounted for character personality. Poe's clumsy, enthusiastic nature influenced how sequences were structured visually, ensuring that each action amplified his emotional state and comedic appeal. Animators faced both artistic and technical challenges in bringing Kung Fu Panda to life. The film combined traditional Chinese artistic influences with the dynamic movement of Kung Fu, necessitating careful attention to body mechanics, weight, and timing. Reference footage of martial artists was extensively studied to inform character movement, and the animators blended realistic martial arts motions with exaggerated, cartoon-inspired gestures to maintain both believability and humor. Poe's movements, in particular, required constant refinement. He was designed to appear heavy and clumsy, yet capable of sudden bursts of speed and agility during training or combat. Achieving this balance involved careful manipulation of timing, squash and stretch principles, and subtle exaggeration of facial expressions to communicate effort, strain, and triumph. Secondary characters such as the Furious Five also required precise choreography, with each animal's fighting style reflecting personality traits and cultural martial arts traditions. Tiger's disciplined strikes, Monkey's agile flips, Crane's expansive aerial movements, and Viper's sinuous slithering each demanded unique animation rigs and careful motion planning. Lighting and environmental design played a critical role in conveying mood and enhancing storytelling. The film's backgrounds were inspired by traditional Chinese landscape paintings, incorporating misty mountains, flowing rivers, and stylized architecture. However, translating these inspirations into a three-dimensional animated space required technological innovation. The lighting team experimented with volumetric lighting to simulate natural light scattering through mist and clouds, creating depth and atmosphere in scenes such as the Valley of Peace. This attention to environmental detail was particularly important in action sequences, where clarity of movement and readability of combat depended on contrasting characters against complex backgrounds. Animators and lighting artists worked closely to ensure that every punch, kick, or tumble could be followed visually while maintaining the aesthetic integrity of the world. Deleted concepts and rewrites were part of the iterative production process. Early story versions included additional training sequences and alternative villains, some of which were cut to streamline the narrative and maintain pacing. Certain jokes or side stories were removed or reworked after test screenings indicated that they slowed the film or did not resonate with audiences. These revisions were not merely about cutting content, but about enhancing narrative cohesion and emotional impact. The filmmakers were careful to retain key character moments and thematic elements, ensuring that even with cuts, the story of self-discovery, perseverance, and friendship remained central. Music and sound design were closely integrated into the animation process, not just added afterward. Hans Zimmer's score and the film's percussive and melodic cues were used by animators as timing references, allowing musical phrasing to synchronize with movement, visual emphasis, and comedic beats. Rhythmic cues influenced how Poe's kung fu moves were animated, with punches, flips, and landings often timed to accentuate the musical undercurrent. Sound effects were crafted to reinforce the physicality of characters while maintaining a stylized, cartoon-inspired texture. The sound of a foot hitting the floor, the swoosh of a flying crane, or the impact of a tiger's strike was carefully balanced between realism and expressive exaggeration, supporting audience immersion and enhancing the comedic and dramatic rhythm. Collaboration across departments was a defining feature of the production. Animators, lighting artists, story artists, composers, voice actors, and editors communicated continuously to ensure that each sequence aligned with the film's vision. For example, the climactic fight scene with Tai Lung went through multiple rounds of iteration, with adjustments to choreography, camera angles, music cues, and sound effects. Directors Mark Osborne and John Stevens facilitated this collaborative environment, encouraging experimentation while keeping the overarching story and emotional beats in focus. This synergy allowed improvisational performances, like those of Jack Black, to inform the animation itself, creating sequences that felt alive, reactive, and emotionally grounded. Kung Fu Panda tells the story of Pa, an overweight and clumsy panda with dreams of becoming a kung fu master, set in a world inspired by traditional Chinese culture, martial arts, and mythology. The narrative follows a classic hero's journey structure, beginning with the protagonist in a state of self-doubt and underestimation and culminating in a moment of personal transformation, triumph, and acceptance of his unique identity. What makes the film compelling is not only the adventure itself but how the plot is carefully structured to appeal to both children and adults, balancing humor, action, and emotional resonance while maintaining a coherent and engaging pace. The film opens by establishing Poe's ordinary world in the Valley of Peace, where he lives as the son of a noodle shop owner and spends his time daydreaming about kung fu. This introduction immediately establishes Poe's personality, his enthusiasm, and his perceived limitations, setting up the audience to empathize with his struggles while anticipating his eventual transformation. Small, seemingly humorous moments, such as Poe's clumsy interactions with objects or his over-the-top reactions to kung fu exhibitions, simultaneously establish comic relief and character motivation, ensuring that viewers connect emotionally from the very beginning. The inciting incident occurs when the legendary dragon warrior is to be chosen at the Jade Palace, a moment that sets the story in motion. Pa unexpectedly finds himself selected as the dragon warrior, much to the surprise of Master Shifu, the Furious Five, and himself. This moment introduces the central tension of the narrative. How can an unlikely and seemingly unqualified panda fulfill a role reserved for the most skilled and disciplined martial artist? The narrative structure cleverly builds this tension by alternating between moments of comedic failure and incremental personal growth. Poe's initial attempts at training are fraught with humor and self-doubt, offering sequences that appeal to children through slapstick comedy while providing adults with subtle commentary on the challenges of personal development and the struggle to meet expectations. The pacing of these sequences is carefully calibrated. Each failure serves a narrative purpose by reinforcing Poe's internal obstacles while allowing for visual and verbal comedy that does not derail the emotional trajectory of the story. Major turning points in the plot coincide with emotional climaxes that reinforce the film's themes. One key turning point occurs during Poe's first serious combat test, when his lack of physical skill and martial experience becomes painfully apparent. This failure is not merely comedic. It is structured to heighten the stakes and deepen audience investment in Poe's journey. The narrative allows viewers to witness his discouragement, but it also plants the seeds of resilience and determination, reinforcing the film's message that true strength is as much about inner belief and creativity as it is about physical prowess. This turning point is followed by a series of training montages and interactions with Master Shifu and the Furious Five, each sequence carefully layered with humor, philosophical reflection, and visible skill progression. The montages employ rhythm, repetition, and visual metaphors to illustrate Poe's growth, often integrating inventive camera angles, slow-motion effects, and musical cues that highlight both dramatic tension and comedic timing. The introduction of the antagonist, Tai Lung, further structures the narrative by creating a tangible external threat that parallels Poe's internal challenges. Tai Lung is a skilled and vengeful martial artist whose arrival escalates the stakes and introduces a race against time. The film strategically juxtaposes Poe's ongoing training with Tai Lung's progression toward the Valley of Peace, building suspense while reinforcing character development. Moments of comic relief continue during this escalation, ensuring that the story maintains accessibility for younger viewers while providing narrative depth for older audiences. The screenplay carefully balances exposition with action, revealing critical backstory and character motivations through flashbacks, dialogue, and visual storytelling rather than through lengthy narration, maintaining pacing and audience engagement. The film's climactic sequences are carefully structured to integrate action, emotion, and thematic resolution. Poe's final confrontation with Tai Lung is not just a display of martial skill, but a culmination of his emotional and philosophical journey. The narrative builds to this climax by emphasizing Poe's self-discovery, his understanding of Qi, and his acceptance of his unique qualities. The pacing of the climactic battle is deliberate, alternating between intense action, humorous moments, and reflective pauses that allow the audience to appreciate both the stakes and the emotional resonance. The choreography, combined with musical and sound cues, ensures that the climax is visually dynamic, emotionally satisfying, and narratively coherent, providing closure to the central tension established earlier in the film. Humor and comedy are woven intricately into the narrative structure. Rather than functioning as separate interludes, comedic sequences serve to reinforce character traits, highlight emotional stakes, and ease tension during action-heavy scenes. Poe's clumsiness, exaggerated reactions, and playful interactions with the environment and other characters offer levity while simultaneously advancing the plot. This dual function of humor ensures that the narrative remains engaging without sacrificing dramatic impact, a technique that contributes to the film's broad appeal. Jokes are often visual, relying on timing, exaggeration, and contrast, but are supported by verbal wit, catchphrases, and improvisational delivery from the voice cast, demonstrating a careful integration of writing, acting, and animation in service of story progression. Emotional resonance is reinforced through secondary plot threads that complement Poe's hero journey. Subplots involving the Furious Five, Master Shifu's struggle with past failures, and Tai Lung's history of rejection add depth and complexity. These narrative layers provide thematic richness and make the story multidimensional, ensuring that viewers are invested in multiple characters' arcs and emotional outcomes. The interplay of multiple storylines allows the film to balance the protagonist's personal growth with external challenges, creating a rhythm that sustains engagement and deepens the narrative experience. Visual motifs, such as the recurring imagery of the Jade Palace, bamboo forests, and misty mountains, are used to anchor the story and provide symbolic resonance, reinforcing themes of balance, growth, and harmony. Musical numbers and sound design are integrated into the narrative in a way that advances character development and emotional arcs. Training sequences, action montages, and reflective moments are underscored with music that emphasizes rhythm, tension, and catharsis, ensuring that auditory elements are fully aligned with narrative beats. In particular, sequences where Poe internalizes lessons or demonstrates creative problem-solving are synchronized with musical cues, reinforcing the sense of progression and achievement. This integration of sound and story exemplifies the film's careful attention to pacing, structure, and emotional timing, creating a cohesive audiovisual experience. Kung Fu Panda is more than a humorous and action-packed animated feature. It is a story layered with meaningful themes and moral lessons that resonate across age groups. Central to the film is the exploration of identity and self-acceptance. Pa, the protagonist, begins as a character who feels out of place, clumsy, and unworthy of greatness. His journey illustrates the universal struggle of self-doubt and the societal pressures to conform to expectations. The narrative emphasizes that embracing one's unique qualities is essential for personal growth and success. Poe's transformation from an insecure, overweight panda to the dragon warrior is a metaphor for the importance of self-discovery, illustrating that true strength comes from understanding and accepting oneself. This message is reinforced repeatedly throughout the film, often through visual metaphors, dialogue, and the interplay of humor and action, making it both memorable and emotionally resonant for children and adults alike. Courage is another significant theme woven throughout the story. While Pa initially lacks physical prowess, he demonstrates emotional bravery, facing challenges and setbacks without giving up. The film communicates that courage is not merely the absence of fear but the willingness to act despite it. This lesson is exemplified in Poe's determination to train, confront Tai Lung, and ultimately rise to the occasion despite overwhelming odds. His courage is intertwined with creativity, showing that innovative thinking and persistence are as vital as physical ability in overcoming obstacles. This theme encourages audiences, particularly children, to recognize that bravery can take many forms, including perseverance, problem-solving, and emotional resilience. Friendship and mentorship are also central to the film's moral framework. The relationship between Po and Master Shifu evolves from skepticism and frustration to trust, mutual respect, and understanding. Shifu's guidance helps Po unlock his potential, while Poe's optimism and creativity influence Shifu's own personal growth. This dynamic illustrates the reciprocal nature of mentorship. Teaching and learning are not unidirectional but benefit both parties. Similarly, the Furious Five, initially skeptical of Po, gradually accept and support him, reinforcing the value of empathy, collaboration, and the importance of recognizing strengths in others. These relationships are framed in a way that balances humor, drama, and emotional depth, making the moral lessons accessible without feeling didactic. Family bonds and belonging are subtly integrated into the narrative. Poe's relationship with his adoptive father, Mr. Ping, highlights unconditional love and the tension between supporting a child's aspirations and managing practical expectations. Poe's journey involves reconciling his desire to fulfill a personal dream with loyalty to his family, demonstrating that personal growth can coexist with respect for loved ones. The depiction of family is not limited to biological ties. It extends to the chosen family of mentors and friends who nurture and challenge the protagonist. This broad conception of family reinforces the film's inclusive message that meaningful connections can take diverse forms and that emotional support is crucial to achieving one's potential. The theme of destiny versus personal choice is explored through the concept of the Dragon Scroll and the prophecy of the Dragon Warrior. Po initially struggles to believe he is destined for greatness, reflecting a tension between societal expectation, fate, and individual agency. The narrative challenges the idea that destiny is a fixed path, suggesting instead that greatness is achieved through effort, self-awareness, and the courage to embrace one's strengths. The Dragon Scroll, ultimately revealed to hold a simple reflective truth, symbolizes the internalization of this lesson. Power, wisdom, and excellence come from self-belief rather than external validation. This moral resonates across age groups, encouraging viewers to consider the role of self-confidence, inner growth, and personal responsibility in achieving their goals. Sacrifice and responsibility emerge as additional moral lessons, particularly in the relationships between characters. Master Shifu's dedication to training and guiding the Dragon Warrior demonstrates the responsibilities of leadership, mentorship, and accountability. His initial sternness and high expectations are tempered by understanding and compassion, showing that true responsibility involves balancing discipline with empathy. Poe's willingness to put himself at risk to protect the valley and confront Tai Lung reinforces the idea that personal growth is linked to ethical action and selflessness. These elements provide subtle yet powerful messages about moral integrity and the importance of contributing positively to one's community. Humor is strategically used to reinforce moral themes. Poe's comedic mishaps, initially a source of embarrassment, become tools for learning, self-expression, and eventual triumph. The narrative shows that mistakes and failure are natural parts of growth, and that resilience often involves embracing imperfections rather than concealing them. By integrating humor with ethical and emotional lessons, the film models a balanced approach to learning and personal development, demonstrating that moral growth need not be somber but can be joyful, playful, and dynamic. This approach encourages audiences to internalize lessons organically, rather than through overt moralizing. Another recurring theme is the balance between discipline and flexibility. The Furious Five embody precision, control, and mastery, whereas Po represents spontaneity, intuition, and creative problem-solving. The narrative shows that neither approach alone is sufficient. True mastery emerges from integrating structure with creativity. This lesson is particularly evident in training sequences and climactic confrontations, where Poe's unorthodox methods, combined with learned skills, allow him to succeed. The story thereby communicates a broader life lesson about the value of adaptability, the importance of leveraging individual strengths, and the interplay between order and innovation. The film also explores forgiveness, redemption, and the consequences of resentment. Tai Lung's backstory illustrates how unaddressed ambition and a sense of injustice can lead to destructive behavior. His character serves as a foil to Poe, demonstrating the dangers of pride and unchecked obsession. In contrast, Poe's journey emphasizes constructive responses to challenges, including patience, empathy, and self-reflection. The narrative conveys that personal choices define character, and that overcoming adversity involves ethical decisions as much as physical skill. These lessons resonate with children learning about consequences and adults reflecting on personal and social ethics. Overall, Kung Fu Panda succeeds in delivering moral messages without compromising entertainment value. The film's themes of self-acceptance, courage, friendship, mentorship, family, destiny, responsibility, resilience, adaptability, and forgiveness are interwoven seamlessly into the narrative, action sequences, and character interactions. Kung Fu Panda's visual presentation is a masterclass in blending traditional artistic influences with cutting-edge animation technology, creating a style that is both visually captivating and narratively expressive. The animation style reflects careful consideration of color, movement, composition, and character design, all of which contribute to the story's emotional depth and accessibility. The filmmakers drew heavily on traditional Chinese art, particularly landscape painting, calligraphy, and architecture, to establish a sense of place and cultural atmosphere. Backgrounds feature sweeping mountains shrouded in mist, winding rivers, and stylized bamboo forests that evoke the serenity and majesty of eastern landscapes, while simultaneously creating dynamic spaces for action sequences. These environments are not merely decorative. They are active participants in the narrative, influencing the pacing of scenes, framing characters in moments of introspection or triumph, and reinforcing thematic symbolism such as balance, harmony, and perseverance. Color palette plays a vital role in visual storytelling, shaping mood and highlighting narrative beats. Scenes in the Valley of Peace, where Po lives and trains, often use warm, vibrant hues that communicate safety, familiarity, and optimism. In contrast, sequences featuring Tai Lung or locations tied to danger and tension employ cooler, darker tones with high contrast to evoke suspense, threat, and emotional intensity. Lighting is carefully calibrated to enhance these effects, utilizing shadow, highlights, and atmospheric haze to draw attention to key characters or actions. For example, during Poe's training montages, directional lighting emphasizes his movement, accentuating comedic timing and the physicality of his struggles. The interplay of color and light thus functions as a storytelling tool, guiding audience focus, enhancing mood, and reinforcing character arcs. Character design is another area in which Kung Fu Panda excels, blending anthropomorphism with personality-specific visual cues. Poe's round, soft shape communicates his jovial, approachable nature, as well as his initial awkwardness and perceived lack of strength. As he grows in confidence, his movements become more deliberate and expressive, showing the progression of his skill while maintaining his inherent charm. The Furious Five are visually distinct, with each animal's design reflecting both their martial arts style and personality. Tigress, sleek and angular, conveys strength and discipline. Monkey, lean and energetic, suggests agility and playful unpredictability. Viper's sinuous form emphasizes flexibility and grace. Crane, with extended wings and elongated limbs, reflects precision and elegance. And Mantis, small but sharp, embodies speed and focus. These design choices allow audiences to instantly grasp character traits and create memorable visual identities, even without dialogue. Animation of movement in Kung Fu Panda reflects meticulous attention to both realism and expressive exaggeration. Martial arts sequences were choreographed with inspiration from real Kung Fu, yet adapted for animation to maintain clarity, readability, and comedic timing. The animators studied martial arts masters to capture authentic motion while exaggerating certain elements to suit the film's stylized aesthetic. Poe's movements, in particular, demonstrate this balance. His large, rounded body moves with weight and momentum, producing humorous stumbles and unintentional flourishes, but he is capable of precise, skillful maneuvers when he internalizes his training. Secondary characters' motions are equally nuanced, reflecting personality, emotional state, and narrative function. For example, Tiger's strikes are precise and controlled, reinforcing her disciplined nature, while Monkey's acrobatics convey playful energy and improvisational skill. The integration of realistic movement and exaggerated character-driven animation allows for dynamic sequences that are simultaneously thrilling, humorous, and emotionally expressive. Facial expressions and microgestures are used to convey subtle emotional cues. Poe's wide eyes, expressive eyebrows, and pronounced mouth movements communicate surprise, joy, fear, or determination with clarity, ensuring that audiences understand his internal state even in complex action scenes. Master Shifu's expressions, including narrowed eyes, pursed lips, and occasional raised eyebrows, communicate wisdom, frustration, or quiet pride, adding layers to his mentorship role. Tai Lung's facial design emphasizes menace, tension, and underlying vulnerability, creating a villain who is both intimidating and psychologically compelling. These careful choices in expression allow animation to function as a primary vehicle for emotional storytelling, replacing or enhancing dialogue in critical moments. Environmental design supports immersion and narrative function beyond aesthetics. The Valley of Peace is structured to facilitate both training and storytelling, with spatial composition reinforcing thematic elements such as openness, opportunity, and community. The Jade Palace, with its tiered architecture, expansive courtyards, and ornate interiors, reflects the discipline and grandeur associated with martial mastery, creating a physical space that embodies narrative values. Natural elements, such as flowing water or swaying bamboo, are animated with realism and rhythm, interacting with characters to reinforce movement, action, and emotional tone. Sequences where patumbles, slides, or bounces through these spaces are enhanced by environmental interaction, making the world feel alive and reactive, and reinforcing his physical and emotional journey. Technological breakthroughs enabled the filmmakers to achieve these visual effects. Advanced fur simulation created realistic and tactile appearances for Po and other animal characters, with each strand of fur responding dynamically to movement, gravity, and environmental conditions. Clothing, accessories, and environmental particles, such as dust, leaves, and water spray, were animated to interact naturally with characters, adding a layer of realism while maintaining the stylized aesthetic. The integration of these elements required sophisticated rendering techniques and careful attention to timing and weight, ensuring that every frame supported the narrative and emotional impact. Visual symbolism is interwoven throughout the film. Poe's physical transformation mirrors his internal growth, with posture, movement, and confidence increasing as he masters kung fu and accepts himself. Training sequences often use scale, perspective, and composition to emphasize personal struggle and achievement, framing Per against vast landscapes to highlight the enormity of his challenge. Tai Lung's imposing presence is emphasized through low camera angles, harsh lighting, and spatial isolation, visually reinforcing his role as a formidable threat. These visual choices complement narrative themes and create a rich, multi-layered storytelling experience that communicates meaning beyond dialogue. Music and sound design play a pivotal role in Kung Fu Panda, serving not only to enhance the visual experience but also to drive character development, emotional resonance, and narrative progression. The score, composed by Hans Zimmer with contributions from John Powell, blends traditional orchestral elements with instrumentation inspired by Chinese musical heritage. This fusion creates a soundscape that is both epic and culturally grounded, allowing audiences to feel the grandeur of martial arts mastery while maintaining an emotional connection to the characters' personal journeys. The music operates on multiple levels, punctuating action sequences, underscoring comedic beats, and amplifying emotional moments, making it an integral part of the film's storytelling rather than a mere accompaniment. One of the key ways music contributes to narrative development is through training montages. These sequences, in which Pa learns to navigate the challenges of kung fu, are set to dynamic, rhythmically precise music that mirrors the physical motion of the characters. Drum beats, string runs, and percussive flourishes accentuate punches, flips, and falls, emphasizing both the comedy and the growing skill of Pa. The synchronization between movement and music is meticulous. Each beat, pause, and crescendo corresponds to a moment in the animation, creating a sense of harmony between sound and motion. The result is that audiences not only see Po's progression but feel it, experiencing the rhythm of his growth in tandem with the narrative arc. Musical motifs are used to reinforce character identity. Po's themes, for example, often incorporate playful and exuberant instrumentation, reflecting his enthusiastic personality and comedic sensibilities. In contrast, Master Shifu's motifs are measured, precise, and occasionally solemn, highlighting his wisdom, discipline, and internal struggle. Tai Lung, the antagonist, is accompanied by darker, tension-filled themes that incorporate dissonant elements, emphasizing menace and emotional complexity. These musical signatures are repeated and adapted throughout the film, allowing audiences to subconsciously associate sound with character, mood, and narrative significance. The recurrence of motifs also provides cohesion, tying disparate scenes together into a unified auditory experience. The film's sound design further enhances immersion and storytelling. Every movement, object interaction, and environmental element is accompanied by carefully crafted sound effects. For example, the swoosh of a crane's wings, the thud of Pa landing after a misstep, and the clatter of bamboo during training sequences are all exaggerated and stylized to emphasize humor, weight, and impact. Sound designers balanced realism with expressiveness, ensuring that auditory cues supported the audience's perception of physicality, timing, and emotion. Environmental sounds, such as rustling leaves, flowing water, or distant wildlife, were layered to create depth and a sense of place, reinforcing the cultural and narrative setting without drawing attention away from character action. The interplay of sound and silence is also notable in Kung Fu Panda. Moments of tension or introspection often employ minimal or no music, allowing the audience to focus on the character's internal states. For example, scenes in which Pa contemplates his self-worth or encounters a moment of moral choice are underscored with subtle ambient sounds, emphasizing reflection and emotional gravity. This deliberate pacing of sound and silence enhances dramatic impact and contrasts effectively with the fast-paced sequences of training or combat, creating a dynamic auditory rhythm that mirrors the story's emotional highs and lows. Comedic timing is augmented by sound design, particularly in sequences where Po's physical humor is central. Exaggerated boings, slips, and crashes are carefully timed with animation to maximize comedic effect, highlighting the contrast between Po's clumsiness and the precision of the Furious Five. These sounds are not only humorous but narratively functional, illustrating character traits, skill development, and narrative consequences. The sound team worked closely with animators to ensure that auditory cues aligned perfectly with visual action, making comedic moments feel immediate and satisfying while supporting the overarching story. Voice performance and music interact in sophisticated ways to enhance character arcs. Jack Black's improvisational delivery as Pa often influenced the timing and dynamics of musical scoring and sound effects. For example, a vocal inflection or spontaneous line delivery might prompt adjustments in percussion or orchestration to highlight comedic beats or emotional emphasis. This dynamic interplay between voice, music, and sound design created sequences that felt alive, spontaneous, and emotionally resonant, illustrating the collaborative nature of animation production. The film also employs musical contrasts to signal narrative and emotional shifts. Triumphant sequences are marked by soaring strings, energetic percussion, and uplifting harmonies, while moments of suspense or danger incorporate minor keys, dissonance, and layered rhythms to heighten tension. Transitions between these states are carefully crafted, using crescendos, pauses, and tempo changes to guide audience perception and emotional response. This approach ensures that viewers experience the story not only visually but orally, with music and sound functioning as co-narrators of the film's emotional landscape. Cultural instrumentation further enhances the authenticity and richness of the soundscape. Traditional Chinese instruments such as the eru, pipa, and guzheng are woven into orchestral arrangements, lending sequences an oral identity rooted in the cultural inspiration of the setting. Percussive instruments such as gongs and drums emphasize martial arts choreography, punctuating action and enhancing dramatic tension. This careful integration of cultural musical elements supports the film's visual aesthetic and narrative setting, creating a holistic experience that immerses audiences in the world of Kung Fu Panda while respecting its artistic influences. The film's sound design also emphasizes thematic resonance. For example, the Dragon Scroll, central to the narrative and Poe's personal growth, is often associated with subtle, mystical musical cues, signaling the significance of self-discovery and inner wisdom. Action sequences are interspersed with thematic flourishes, reinforcing the connection between physical mastery and emotional growth. This approach ensures that music and sound are not only entertaining but integral to conveying the moral and philosophical messages embedded in the story. Overall, Kung Fu Panda demonstrates how music, songs, and sound design can function as essential storytelling tools. The score by Hans Zimmer, combined with strategic sound effects and meticulous integration with animation, enhances narrative pacing, emotional resonance, and comedic timing. Kung Fu Panda was met with widespread acclaim upon its release, appealing to audiences across different age groups, cultural backgrounds, and geographic regions. The film's reception can be analyzed from several perspectives, including critical evaluation, audience response, box office performance, and discussion surrounding its thematic and stylistic choices. Critics praised the film for its successful fusion of humor, action, and heartfelt storytelling, noting that it struck a balance between a family-friendly adventure and an emotionally resonant narrative that adults could appreciate. Jack Black's vocal performance as Po was highlighted as a central strength, with reviewers noting the actor's ability to imbue the character with enthusiasm, vulnerability, and comedic timing that elevated the narrative beyond a conventional animated comedy. The performances of the supporting cast, including Dustin Hoffman, Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan, Lucy Liu, and Gary Oldman, were also recognized for adding depth, nuance, and gravitas, creating a well-rounded ensemble whose interactions felt natural and engaging. Critics emphasized the film's narrative structure, noting that it combined elements of the classic hero's journey with humor and cultural references in a way that appealed to multiple demographics. The story's focus on Poe's personal growth, self-discovery, and eventual triumph was praised for its emotional clarity, motivational resonance, and ability to teach moral lessons without feeling preachy. The screenplay was commended for integrating comedy and philosophy seamlessly, and reviewers highlighted the effectiveness of blending slapstick humor with moments of reflection, allowing the narrative to sustain engagement for both children and adults. The writing team's careful attention to character development, dialogue rhythm, and comedic timing contributed to the film's overall cohesion and narrative impact. Animation and visual design were widely recognized as another major factor in the film's positive reception. Reviewers noted the impressive blending of traditional Chinese artistic influences with dynamic computer-generated animation. The sweeping landscapes, stylized backgrounds, and carefully orchestrated action sequences demonstrated a high level of artistic and technical skill, creating a cinematic experience that was both visually stunning and narratively expressive. The design of Po and other characters was highlighted for successfully conveying personality, emotion, and story through form, posture, and movement. These elements allowed the film to transcend typical animation standards, positioning it as a high-quality production in line with other acclaimed animated features of the era. Music and sound design were also consistently praised. Hans Zimmer's score, incorporating both Western orchestral elements and traditional Chinese instrumentation, was noted for enhancing emotional depth, action sequences, and comedic beats. Reviewers appreciated the way musical cues were integrated with character development, particularly in training montages, fight sequences, and climactic moments, creating a rhythm that synchronized with narrative progression. Sound effects were lauded for their clarity, timing, and expressiveness, especially in sequences that relied on physical comedy or martial arts choreography. This holistic approach to audiovisual storytelling contributed significantly to the audience's immersive experience and overall enjoyment. Audience response mirrored critical acclaim, with children particularly drawn to Poe's exuberance, humor, and clumsy charm. Younger viewers identified with Poe's initial insecurities and aspirations, relating to his struggles in a way that made his eventual triumph both satisfying and inspirational. Adults appreciated the layered humor, philosophical undertones, and well-crafted story arcs, allowing for an engaging experience that transcended age-specific entertainment. Fan discussions frequently highlighted favorite scenes, memorable lines, and character development, demonstrating that the film resonated on both a surface comedic level and a deeper, emotional level. The film's blend of humor, action, and heartfelt storytelling created broad appeal, contributing to its status as a modern animated classic. Kung Fu Panda's box office performance reinforced its popularity, achieving substantial commercial success domestically and internationally. The film grossed hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide, establishing itself as a top-grossing animated feature in its release year. Its commercial success reflected not only its broad demographic appeal but also effective marketing strategies, including trailers, merchandising, and strategic tie-ins with media and entertainment platforms. The strong box office performance further validated the critical consensus and highlighted the film's ability to compete with other contemporary animated releases while setting new standards for narrative sophistication, animation quality, and cross-generational appeal. While the reception was overwhelmingly positive, some criticism emerged regarding storytelling choices, cultural representation, and comparative originality. A few reviewers noted that, despite its culturally inspired aesthetic and martial arts focus, the narrative took liberties with traditional Chinese elements, blending them with a westernized hero's journey structure. Some critiques centered on concerns about cultural simplification or the use of stereotypes, although these were often mitigated by the film's broader intention of creating a family-friendly, inspirational story rather than a historically or culturally precise account. Others compared the film to earlier animated classics, noting similarities in hero archetypes and training montages. Yet even in these critiques, the film was generally praised for its execution, visual style, and emotional resonance. Awards and nominations further reflected the film's reception. Kung Fu Panda received nominations for Best Animated Feature and recognition for its technical achievements, including voice performance, music, and visual effects. While some awards were not ultimately won, the nominations highlighted the film's status as a significant contribution to the animated genre, confirming both critical and industry recognition. Discussions among critics often emphasized the film's ability to integrate comedy, action, and emotion without diluting narrative depth, a characteristic that distinguished it from other contemporary animated features and contributed to its enduring legacy. Critical debate also extended to thematic content, particularly the emphasis on self-discovery, destiny, and personal growth. Some commentators noted that these themes, while universal and inspirational, followed familiar story structures seen in other animated and live-action films. However, the uniqueness of Kung Fu Panda lay in its execution. Poe's personality, the culturally inspired setting, dynamic action sequences, and integrated humor created a fresh, engaging presentation of familiar moral and narrative concepts. Kung Fu Panda quickly established itself not only as a successful standalone film but also as the foundation of a lasting and multifaceted franchise that expanded across sequels, television adaptations, merchandise, and other media. The film's commercial and critical success created opportunities to build upon the original story, introducing audiences to new adventures while retaining the charm, humor, and emotional depth that made the first installment so impactful. The immediate legacy of the film can be seen in its sequels, which further explored the characters, themes, and universe established in the original. Kung Fu Panda 2 deepened the narrative by exploring Poe's origins, his family history, and the philosophical elements of Kung Fu, while maintaining a balance between humor, action, and emotional resonance. Kung Fu Panda 3 expanded the universe even further, introducing new characters, environments, and narrative challenges, all while emphasizing the themes of personal growth, mentorship, and community. These sequels allowed the franchise to grow organically, building upon established character arcs and thematic elements without losing the essence of what made the original film successful. Television adaptations played a significant role in extending the reach of the franchise. Series such as Kung Fu Panda, Legends of Awesomeness provided opportunities to explore episodic stories featuring the same beloved characters, focusing on daily adventures, moral lessons, and humorous situations. These adaptations allowed younger audiences to engage with the world of Kung Fu Panda on an ongoing basis, reinforcing familiarity with characters like Pei, the Furious Five, and Master Shifu. The episodic format provided flexibility to experiment with storytelling, introduce new minor characters, and explore comedic or educational narratives that complemented the cinematic films. Television adaptations also strengthened fan engagement by maintaining visibility of the franchise between major film releases, creating a continuous presence in children's media. Merchandise was another crucial aspect of the franchise's expansion, encompassing a wide range of products including toys, clothing, school supplies, and collectibles. Pa, with his distinct personality and visual design, became a highly marketable figure, with plush dolls, action figures, and figurines allowing fans to bring the character into their everyday lives. Merchandise lines extended to the Furious Five and other supporting characters, enabling fans to interact with multiple aspects of the story's universe. Licensing partnerships with retail chains, toy manufacturers, and promotional campaigns contributed to the film's cultural visibility, reinforcing its status as both a cinematic and commercial phenomenon. The widespread availability of merchandise also facilitated intergenerational connections, as children could share their enthusiasm for the characters with parents, relatives, or peers. Theme park attractions further expanded the franchise's presence, offering immersive experiences that allowed audiences to engage physically with the world of Kung Fu Panda. Character meet and greets, live-action shows, and themed environments recreated iconic locations from the films, such as the Valley of Peace, the Jade Palace, and the Panda Village. Interactive experiences, including martial arts demonstrations and obstacle courses inspired by training sequences, enabled participants to emulate the characters' actions and adventures, reinforcing engagement and emotional connection. Theme parks thus served not only as entertainment venues but also as platforms for brand reinforcement, ensuring that the film's legacy extended beyond the screen into experiential spaces that could be enjoyed by fans of all ages. The franchise also ventured into cross-media storytelling, including video games and interactive digital content. Video game adaptations allowed players to control Pa and other characters, performing martial arts moves, completing missions, and engaging with narrative elements from the films. These interactive experiences reinforced the franchise's themes of skill development, problem-solving, and perseverance, while providing a sense of agency and immersion for fans. Mobile applications, online games, and digital activities further extended the universe, offering accessible ways for audiences to interact with characters, environments, and storylines beyond traditional media formats. Live performances and stage adaptations contributed to the franchise's cultural legacy. Theatrical interpretations of Kung Fu Panda brought the story to audiences in a live setting, incorporating choreography, music, and visual effects to recreate the excitement and humor of the films. These productions often emphasized martial arts sequences, character interactions, and comedic timing, translating animated action into a tangible, performative experience. Stage adaptations expanded the franchise's reach into the performing arts, offering fans a new way to engage with the narrative and reinforcing the story's adaptability across different media. The franchise's influence also extended into education and youth programming. The themes of self-discovery, courage, and collaboration found in the films were incorporated into educational content, workshops, and enrichment activities. Children could explore martial arts, creativity, and personal development in ways inspired by the narrative and characters, making the franchise not only entertaining but also a source of constructive learning. These educational extensions reinforced the film's moral and emotional messages, ensuring that the franchise's legacy encompassed both amusement and personal growth. International expansion was another hallmark of the franchise's development. The original film's success in multiple countries demonstrated its universal appeal, prompting translations, dubbing, and culturally adapted releases that allowed global audiences to connect with the story. Sequels and related content followed the same approach, ensuring that character nuances, humor, and narrative themes were accessible across linguistic and cultural contexts. The international reach of the franchise contributed to its longevity, creating a global fanbase and sustaining relevance in diverse markets. The expansion of the franchise also included the potential for a live-action adaptation. Discussions and preliminary development highlighted the enduring popularity of the characters and the narrative suitability for reinterpretation in new cinematic formats. Such adaptations indicate the film's continuing influence within the industry, reflecting confidence in the story's appeal, thematic richness, and visual potential. The possibility of reimagining the narrative in live action demonstrates the adaptability of the world building, character design, and thematic elements, further solidifying the original film's status as a cultural touchstone. Kung Fu Panda has achieved a remarkable emotional connection with audiences that transcends age, culture, and geographic boundaries. The film's ability to engage viewers on multiple levels makes it resonate differently with children, adults, and longtime animation enthusiasts, creating a multi-generational impact that contributes to its enduring popularity. At the core of this connection is Pa, a protagonist whose personality, struggles, and triumphs are relatable across demographics. Children identify with Po's initial insecurities, his clumsy enthusiasm, and his desire to achieve something greater than himself, seeing in him a reflection of their own challenges, dreams, and fears. His journey from underdog to hero demonstrates the universal truth that persistence, self-belief, and embracing one's unique qualities can lead to personal success, offering an empowering message for young viewers who may feel marginalized, overlooked, or self-conscious. Adults engage with the film on a different emotional plane, often appreciating the layered storytelling, humor, and philosophical undertones. While children laugh at Po's slapstick comedy and exaggerated gestures, adults recognize the subtler themes of mentorship, personal growth, and responsibility. Master Shifu's internal conflict, Tai Lung's tragic backstory, and Po's evolving self-awareness offer narrative depth that resonates with mature audiences who may see parallels to their own life experiences. The balance between overt humor and reflective storytelling allows adults to enjoy the film without feeling excluded, creating a shared viewing experience for families. The juxtaposition of Po's clumsiness with the disciplined skill of the Furious Five highlights both the comedic appeal for younger audiences and the deeper narrative commentary on different paths to mastery and success, reinforcing the film's multi-layered resonance. Fan communities have played a significant role in sustaining and amplifying emotional connection. Online forums, social media groups, and fan sites allow audiences to discuss favorite scenes, memorable lines, character arcs, and philosophical messages. These communities often create art, fan fiction, and cosplay inspired by the film, deepening engagement and fostering a sense of belonging among fans. The popularity of Pa as a character inspires creative expression and personal identification, with fans celebrating his perseverance, humor, and unique approach to challenges. These interactions extend the life of the film beyond its initial release, allowing audiences to participate actively in a shared cultural and emotional experience. Cosplay and fan conventions have further strengthened the generational resonance of Kung Fu Panda. Children enjoy dressing as Po or the Furious Five, reenacting favorite scenes and embodying characters who inspire courage and creativity. Adults participate as well, often taking on roles that allow them to explore the philosophical and humorous aspects of the story in social and performative settings. This participatory engagement fosters a sense of community and collective experience, highlighting the film's capacity to create emotional bonds that go beyond passive viewing. The act of embodying a character, whether through costume, roleplay, or reenactment, allows audiences to internalize themes of courage, friendship, and personal growth in a tactile and memorable way. Musical engagement also contributes to the audience's emotional connection. Songs and score motifs from the film, particularly in training sequences or climactic confrontations, become recognizable and emotionally resonant cues that audiences associate with specific character moments or narrative milestones. Children often sing along or hum these melodies, while adults may appreciate the compositional sophistication or the way musical themes reinforce the narrative. Cover versions, performances, and fan-created musical content further extend this engagement, allowing audiences to interact with the film's auditory elements and reinforcing emotional attachment through repeated exposure and creative participation. The film's humor serves as a bridge between generations. While slapstick comedy appeals immediately to children, subtle verbal wit, visual irony, and philosophical references provide layers for older viewers. This multi-level humor encourages shared enjoyment between parents and children, creating opportunities for conversation, reflection, and emotional bonding. For example, while a child may laugh at Poe's exaggerated falls or comedic mistakes, an adult may simultaneously perceive the thematic significance of these moments, such as resilience, problem-solving, and self-acceptance. This dual-layered humor reinforces the film's ability to resonate emotionally across age groups, creating a shared cultural touchstone within families. The emotional arcs of supporting characters also contribute to audience connection. The Furious Five and Master Shifu provide models of discipline, mentorship, and friendship, each with distinct personality traits and challenges that viewers can relate to. Children learn lessons about teamwork, respect, and perseverance by observing how these characters interact with Poe and each other, while adults can appreciate the nuanced character dynamics, ethical choices, and philosophical undertones. Tai Lung's tragic history and quest for recognition evoke empathy and cautionary reflection, providing a complex emotional counterpoint to Poe's journey. The interplay between protagonist and supporting characters creates a network of relationships that enhances narrative depth and strengthens audience engagement, allowing viewers to invest emotionally in multiple storylines simultaneously. Emotional resonance is further amplified by universal themes such as self-discovery, identity, courage, and perseverance. Audiences of all ages recognize the significance of Poe's internal journey, and these themes provide a framework through which viewers can reflect on their own experiences. The narrative demonstrates that failure is a natural part of growth, that embracing one's unique qualities is a source of strength, and that perseverance and creativity can overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. By presenting these themes through a combination of humor, action, and visually expressive animation, the film ensures that lessons are internalized organically, creating lasting emotional impact. Intergenerational appeal is also evident in how the film is consumed and celebrated. Families often watch Kung Fu Panda together, with children enjoying the immediate entertainment and adults appreciating the layered storytelling and emotional subtext. This shared experience fosters discussion and reflection, enhancing the emotional connection between viewers and the material. Repeated viewings reinforce this bond, as audiences of different ages notice new details, jokes, or thematic elements, deepening appreciation for the film's artistry and narrative sophistication. In addition, the film's cultural aesthetic and martial arts influences contribute to its global resonance. Viewers from diverse backgrounds can engage with the story's visual and philosophical elements, finding inspiration and entertainment in both familiar and novel aspects of the setting and character design. Kung Fu Panda excels in its portrayal of character development, using archetypes familiar from classic storytelling while simultaneously reimagining them in ways that resonate with modern audiences. The protagonist, Poe, embodies the archetypal underdog hero whose journey reflects the classic hero's quest. Yet his personality, physicality, and humor subvert traditional expectations. Initially, Poe is portrayed as overweight, clumsy, and socially awkward, contrasting sharply with the disciplined and highly skilled warriors around him. This juxtaposition establishes both comedic tension and narrative stakes, making his eventual transformation satisfying and inspiring. His growth is gradual, achieved through persistence, self-reflection, mentorship, and learning to embrace his unique qualities. Poe's development emphasizes that heroism is not defined solely by external prowess, but by courage, creativity, and self-acceptance. Master Shifu functions as the mentor archetype, providing guidance, discipline, and occasional stern correction. However, unlike a purely infallible guide, Shifu is portrayed with vulnerability and internal conflict. His struggle to overcome past mistakes, particularly regarding Tai Lung, adds complexity to his character and underscores the theme that even mentors must confront their own limitations. Shifu's development parallels Poe's, as the mentor learns to trust in Poe's unconventional methods and to accept that wisdom can manifest in unexpected ways. This dual-character arc enriches the narrative by illustrating that growth is a mutual process, and that teaching is as much about adaptability and empathy as it is about instruction. The Furious Five serve as archetypes representing the diverse strengths, personalities, and approaches to mastery within the martial arts world. Tigress exemplifies discipline, strength, and determination, yet her rigid adherence to rules initially creates tension with Poe's unorthodox methods. Monkey embodies agility, playfulness, and improvisation, demonstrating that skill can take many forms. Viper is graceful, flexible, and compassionate, providing a balance of elegance and sensitivity. Crane represents precision and control, while Mantis, small but sharp, exemplifies focus and resourcefulness. Together, the Furious Five provide contrast, support, and narrative tension, allowing the story to explore themes of teamwork, diversity, and the complementarity of different skills and temperaments. Their individual development, while secondary to Poe's arc, reinforces the film's message that mastery and personal growth are multifaceted and relational rather than isolated. Tai Lung, the antagonist, functions as both a foil and a mirror for Po, embodying traits that highlight the protagonist's journey and growth. As a once promising student corrupted by ambition, resentment, and impatience, Tai Lung represents the dangers of pride, obsession, and unbalanced desire for recognition. His development, although tragic rather than redemptive, provides depth to the narrative by demonstrating the consequences of misdirected talent and emotional rigidity. The contrast between Tai Lung and Po underscores the moral and philosophical dimensions of the story, showing that strength without wisdom, compassion, or self-awareness can lead to downfall, while courage, creativity, and self-acceptance lead to true mastery. Supporting characters beyond the core ensemble also contribute to character development and archetypal depth. Poe's father, Mr. Ping, embodies the archetype of the nurturing parental figure, providing love, encouragement, and grounding while reflecting the tension between practical expectation and aspirational support. His unwavering belief in Poe's potential reinforces the central theme of self-discovery and familial bonds. Minor characters such as villagers, training aides, and background martial artists provide texture, humor, and additional narrative stakes, enriching the world building and supporting the protagonist's journeys. These characters, though peripheral, are designed with attention to personality, behavior, and interaction, making the environment feel alive and responsive. The film's character development is reinforced through visual storytelling, expressive animation, and voice performance. Poe's physicality, from his initial awkward gestures to his later confident, fluid movements, communicates his emotional and skill-based growth. Facial expressions, posture, and body language reflect shifts in confidence, fear, joy, and determination, allowing audiences to witness development in a nuanced, visually engaging manner. Voice performances complement these visual cues. Jack Black's energetic and improvisational delivery infuses Poe with charm, vulnerability, and humor, while Dustin Hoffman's nuanced tone conveys Sherfu's authority, wisdom, and internal struggle. Supporting voice performances for the Furious Five and Tai Lung similarly enhance character identity, emotional resonance, and narrative clarity, demonstrating the interplay between animation and vocal performance in character development. The film also subverts and reinterprets classical archetypes. Whereas traditional hero narratives often feature a physically imposing, conventionally attractive protagonist, Poe's design and personality challenge these conventions. His charm, relatability, and humor provide alternative models of heroism, emphasizing emotional intelligence, resilience, and creative problem-solving. This reinterpretation broadens the scope of representation in animated storytelling, showing audiences that heroism can take diverse forms and that external appearance does not dictate one's ability to grow, succeed, or inspire others. Similarly, Tai Lung, while fitting the archetype of the dangerous antagonist, is given a backstory that elicits empathy, complexity, and tragic depth, allowing viewers to understand motivation beyond simple villainy. Relationships between characters are crucial to the development of both protagonist and secondary figures. Poe's interactions with the Furious Five evolve from skepticism and competition to mutual respect and camaraderie, reflecting themes of teamwork, acceptance, and valuing diverse strengths. Mentorship relationships, particularly with Sherfu, explore dynamics of trust, guidance, and adaptation, demonstrating that growth is collaborative and relational. Even minor interactions, such as Poe's dialogue with villagers or training mishaps, provide opportunities to reinforce traits, lessons, and interpersonal growth, making character arcs feel consistent, layered, and emotionally engaging. Internal conflict drives much of the character development. Poe's struggle with self-doubt, societal expectation, and the desire to meet other standards forms the emotional backbone of the narrative. Sherfu's internal struggle with past failure, guilt, and the challenge of adapting to an unconventional student adds parallel depth. Tai Lung's internalization of resentment, ambition, and perceived injustice drives his antagonistic choices and contrasts with Poe's positive, self-directed growth. These conflicts are carefully balanced with external challenges, such as training obstacles and confrontations, ensuring that character development is multidimensional and that emotional stakes remain high throughout the narrative. Humor, while central to audience engagement, also reinforces character development. Kung Fu Panda's visual universe is a testament to meticulous world building, where costume, character design, and environmental detail work together to create an immersive, culturally inspired, and narratively rich setting. The film's design choices convey not only aesthetic appeal but also personality, social roles, and thematic symbolism, ensuring that every element serves both story and character development. Poe's design is central to this approach. His round, soft body, expressive face, and oversized features communicate humor, approachability, and initial clumsiness, while subtle changes in posture, movement, and costume over the course of the film reflect his internal growth. His martial arts uniform, simple yet functional, evolves visually to symbolize his increasing competence, confidence, and acceptance of the dragon warrior identity. These choices reinforce the film's themes of self-acceptance, resilience, and transformation, showing that costume and design can serve as visual indicators of character arc. The Furious Five are designed with distinct visual cues that reflect their personalities, martial arts styles, and narrative roles. Tigress' sleek lines, angular features, and sharp color palette emphasize discipline, precision, and strength. Monkey's lean, flexible frame, and playful expressions highlight agility, creativity, and spontaneity. Viper's sinuous body, delicate patterning, and fluid movements convey grace, flexibility, and empathy. Crane's elongated limbs, extended wings, and elegant posture suggest precision, elegance, and composure, while Mantis' small, compact design communicates focus, speed, and ingenuity. Each character's design functions as both a storytelling device and a practical visual cue for audiences, allowing viewers to immediately understand personality traits and narrative function even in fast-paced action sequences. Costume and body design are intertwined, reinforcing martial arts styles and emphasizing the relationship between form, function, and identity. Master Sherfu's design communicates wisdom, authority, and mentorship. His small stature contrasts with the power he wields, reinforcing the idea that mastery is not dependent on physical size. Robes and traditional martial arts attire suggest discipline and cultural grounding, while subtle details, such as folded sleeves, high collars, and carefully chosen color palettes, emphasize his role as a teacher and moral guide. Tai Lung's imposing physicality, combined with darker costume tones and claw-like features, conveys menace and internalized tension, creating a visual representation of the consequences of ambition and resentment. These design choices enhance narrative clarity and reinforce emotional responses, illustrating the importance of visual storytelling in animated film. Supporting characters, including villagers, background warriors, and minor mentors, are given distinctive clothing, coloration, and silhouettes that communicate their roles within the world. Even brief appearances provide visual cues about status, personality, and narrative purpose. For example, marketplace villagers are dressed in vibrant, flowing garments that reflect cultural context and communal warmth, while guards and palace figures wear more structured, muted uniforms that signify authority and discipline. Such attention to costume design ensures that the world feels alive, coherent, and culturally textured, allowing audiences to understand social structures, hierarchy, and environment without relying solely on dialogue. Environmental design contributes significantly to the immersive quality of the world. The Valley of Peace, with its rolling hills, misty mountains, and quaint village structures, conveys harmony, accessibility, and safety. The Jade Palace, in contrast, employs tiered architecture, ornate details, and expansive courtyards to reflect discipline, tradition, and mastery, providing a physical space that mirrors the philosophical ideals of martial arts training. Natural elements, such as bamboo forests, rivers, and waterfalls, are stylized yet realistic, offering both aesthetic appeal and functional utility for action sequences. These environments interact dynamically with characters, supporting movement, comedic timing, and thematic resonance, while reinforcing cultural and narrative context. Lighting and color choices within the world further emphasize narrative and emotional beats. Warm, saturated tones dominate scenes of camaraderie, training, and village life, creating a sense of comfort, optimism, and connection. Cooler, darker palettes mark moments of tension, danger, or confrontation, heightening suspense and emphasizing stakes. Gradients, atmospheric effects, and the interplay of light and shadow are used to guide viewer attention, underscore emotion, and enhance depth. These choices contribute to world building by signaling tone, mood, and narrative significance without explicit exposition, allowing the environment to communicate as effectively as dialogue or action. Texture and material design also play an essential role. Fur, fabric, and environmental surfaces are animated with meticulous attention to detail. Pose fur responds dynamically to movement, gravity, and external forces, enhancing realism while maintaining expressiveness. Robes, belts, and accessories exhibit fluidity and weight, allowing subtle gestures, movements, and interactions to communicate character traits and emotional states. Similarly, natural elements like water, bamboo, and stone interact with characters in a believable and visually satisfying way, reinforcing immersion. These textures, combined with careful lighting and animation, create a tactile sense of the world that deepens engagement and believability. Symbolism is embedded within costume and world design. Poe's transformation is mirrored in his visual presence, from posture to movement and costume, reinforcing his narrative arc. The Dragon Scroll, a central narrative object, is depicted with intricate detail and stylization that conveys mystery, importance, and thematic weight. Palace architecture and dojo layouts reflect hierarchical structures, philosophical principles, and the discipline associated with martial arts mastery. Natural landscapes, with their sweeping vistas and dynamic elements, symbolize both challenge and opportunity, reflecting the characters' internal journeys and the thematic interplay between adversity, growth, and triumph. World-building also extends to subtle cultural and historical references. Architectural styles, clothing patterns, and environmental design are inspired by classical Chinese aesthetics, while adapted to a stylized, animated format. These influences lend authenticity, texture, and a sense of rootedness, allowing audiences to feel the cultural and narrative specificity of the setting. By blending cultural inspiration with imaginative interpretation, the filmmakers create a space that feels both familiar and fantastical, grounding the story in a believable world while allowing creative freedom for narrative and visual expression. Overall, Kung Fu Panda demonstrates how character design, costume, and environmental world building are interdependent elements that shape narrative, emotion, and audience engagement. Poe's evolving design, the distinctive appearances of the Furious Five, the expressive qualities of supporting characters, and the intricate environmental details all contribute to an immersive cinematic experience. Kung Fu Panda's screenplay is carefully crafted to balance humor, emotional resonance, and narrative clarity, creating a story that appeals simultaneously to children, adults, and general audiences. Dialogue plays a crucial role in this balance, functioning not only as a vehicle for plot, but as a tool for character development, comedic timing, and thematic reinforcement. Jack Black's portrayal of Pa is central to this dynamic, with improvised and energetically delivered lines that convey the character's enthusiasm, self-doubt, and humor. Poe's speech often combines casual, playful phrasing with moments of insight, allowing audiences to empathize with his internal struggle while enjoying the comedic surface. The voice performance and writing work in tandem, with dialogue rhythms timed to enhance both humor and dramatic beats, demonstrating how screenplay construction and performance intersect to create a dynamic viewing experience. The screenplay employs humor on multiple levels, catering to children and adults without diluting either audience's experience. Slapstick comedy, physical gags, and exaggerated gestures provide immediate visual humor for younger viewers, while wordplay, irony, and philosophical allusions engage older audiences. Poe's clumsy training sequences, interactions with the Furious Five, and repeated missteps are designed for comedic payoff, but also reinforce character traits and narrative arcs. The humor is integrated into the story rather than appended as a separate element, ensuring that laughter emerges naturally from character behavior, situational context, and narrative progression. This approach strengthens engagement and emotional investment, as audiences respond both to the humor and the character growth it underscores. Recurring catchphrases and thematic lines further enhance the screenplay's cohesion and memorability. Phrases related to perseverance, destiny, and personal growth are strategically placed, echoing key moments in Poe's journey and reinforcing narrative themes. Dialogue between characters, particularly in mentor-student exchanges, incorporates humor, guidance, and philosophical reflection, ensuring that educational and inspirational elements are delivered in an entertaining and accessible manner. These recurring motifs contribute to the film's ability to resonate with audiences long after viewing, providing both quotable lines and embedded moral lessons that complement the story. The screenplay's structure demonstrates a careful balance between pacing, character development, and narrative escalation. The story unfolds in distinct acts that correspond to stages of Poe's hero journey: introduction to the Valley of Peace and the initial challenge of the Dragon Warrior selection, the struggle through training and self-doubt, confrontation with the antagonist Tai Lung, and eventual mastery and resolution. Each act contains comedic beats, emotional moments, and action sequences, maintaining momentum while allowing space for character introspection. Transitions between acts are supported by dialogue that advances plot, reinforces relationships, and emphasizes Poe's internal growth, ensuring that narrative development is both coherent and emotionally engaging. Comedic timing is further enhanced through interplay between dialogue and visual cues. Verbal exchanges often coincide with physical gags, facial expressions, or environmental interactions, creating layered humor that operates on multiple sensory levels. For example, Poe's dialogue while tumbling through a training sequence may be complemented by exaggerated motion, unexpected collisions, or reactions from other characters, maximizing comedic impact. This synchronization of verbal and visual humor demonstrates the screenplay's integration with animation, ensuring that timing, pacing, and character intention are consistent across mediums. The result is a seamless experience where comedy, character, and plot advancement reinforce one another. Exposition is handled with subtlety and creativity, avoiding heavy-handed explanation while maintaining clarity. Training sequences, flashbacks, and dialogues between Poe and Master Shifu convey essential information about the history of Kung Fu, character backstories, and thematic stakes without interrupting narrative flow. Storytelling devices such as visual symbolism, object significance, and environmental cues complement dialogue, allowing audiences to understand context and motivation organically. For example, the Dragon Scroll's mystique is established through narrative discussion and character reaction rather than lengthy exposition, creating intrigue and reinforcing thematic significance. Emotional dialogue is integrated strategically, often juxtaposed with humor to maintain engagement. Poe's moments of self-doubt, frustration, or realization are expressed through conversational exchanges with Shifu, the Furious Five, or his father, providing both narrative clarity and emotional depth. These interactions allow audiences to witness character evolution and internal conflict in real time, ensuring that dramatic stakes feel immediate and relatable. Dialogue is carefully paced to match scene intensity, with pauses, repetitions, or inflection shifts used to enhance emphasis, comedic timing, or reflective contemplation. The screenplay also demonstrates skillful manipulation of tension and release. Action sequences are punctuated by witty lines or humorous observations, preventing narrative fatigue and balancing intensity with levity. Similarly, moments of emotional reflection are often lightened by subtle humor, preventing melodrama and keeping the tone accessible. This rhythm of tension, humor, and emotional resonance contributes to sustained audience engagement and ensures that multiple narrative and emotional layers can coexist without conflict. The screenplay's architecture allows for continuous audience investment, encouraging both laughter and empathy throughout the film. Character-specific dialogue contributes significantly to identity formation. Poe's speech patterns, humor, and expressive language differentiate him from other characters, reinforcing his uniqueness and relatability. Sherfu's measured, sometimes stern language conveys authority and wisdom, while also allowing occasional moments of sarcasm or exasperation that humanize his role. The Furious Five's lines reflect their distinct temperaments. Tiger's discipline, Monkey's playfulness, Viper's grace, Crane's precision, and Mantis' sharpness. Tai Lung's speech conveys intensity, menace, and complex motivation, allowing audiences to understand him as more than a one-dimensional villain. These character-specific dialogue choices reinforce relationships, personal growth, and narrative clarity. Storytelling through humor, dialogue, and structure is also used to reinforce thematic content. The film's messages about self-discovery, perseverance, and individuality are often embedded within comedic exchanges or reflective conversations, allowing audiences to internalize lessons organically. Kung Fu Panda's success extended far beyond the cinematic experience, driven in large part by an expansive and strategic approach to marketing, branding, and international reach. The promotional campaign for the film was designed to appeal simultaneously to children, families, and older audiences, creating excitement before the film's release while establishing Po and the world of Kung Fu Panda as recognizable cultural icons. Trailers and teasers were carefully crafted to showcase the film's humor, action, and emotional core, giving audiences a sense of Po's personality, the dynamic martial arts sequences, and the visually rich settings of the Valley of Peace and the Jade Palace. These early previews emphasized the blend of comedy, action, and heart that would become the film's defining characteristics, ensuring that potential viewers could identify both the narrative and tonal appeal. Soundtrack and music were integral to marketing efforts. Musical teasers, clips of training sequences, and snippets of Hans Zimmer's score combined with thematic songs were released alongside trailers and promotional materials, reinforcing the film's identity and making its music recognizable before audiences even entered theaters. The dynamic and culturally inspired score was highlighted as a selling point, offering an auditory cue to the film's thematic depth, martial arts energy, and emotional resonance. Songs associated with Po's journey and key narrative moments were promoted through radio, television, and digital platforms, creating familiarity and engagement that encouraged repeat viewings and deepened audience attachment. Merchandising was a cornerstone of the film's branding strategy. Toys, plush dolls, action figures, and collectibles featuring Po, the Furious Five, and supporting characters allowed audiences, particularly children, to interact physically with the world of Kung Fu Panda. These products were not merely extensions of the story but became part of the broader cultural presence of the franchise. Partnerships with major retailers, fast food chains, and promotional events ensured that Po and associated characters were consistently visible in everyday environments, reinforcing brand recognition and creating a sense of ubiquity. Merchandise lines were carefully designed to reflect character personality, martial arts attributes, and the aesthetic of the film, strengthening the connection between the cinematic narrative and tangible audience experiences. Fast food promotions and retail partnerships played a significant role in reaching younger audiences. Collectible toys and meals, themed packaging, and in-store displays allowed children to engage with characters through play, enhancing anticipation for the film and creating early brand loyalty. Promotional events often included interactive activities, martial arts demonstrations, and contests, encouraging family participation and community engagement. These marketing strategies ensured that the film's presence extended beyond the screen, making it part of daily life for children and reinforcing emotional and cultural connection to the story. Digital media and social platforms were leveraged to broaden global reach and maintain engagement. Online trailers, character profiles, interactive games, and social media campaigns allowed audiences to explore Poe's world, learn character backstories, and engage in narrative-driven activities prior to and following the film's release. Fans could participate in virtual challenges, share content, and create fan art or cosplay, extending the film's cultural footprint and fostering a sense of participation. Digital marketing reinforced global accessibility, allowing audiences from diverse backgrounds to connect with characters, themes, and humor across geographic and linguistic boundaries. International marketing campaigns were adapted to reflect cultural contexts, ensuring that humor, character traits, and narrative highlights were understood and appreciated in different regions. Dubbing, localization of dialogue, and region-specific promotional materials allowed the film to resonate with global audiences while maintaining the integrity of Poe's personality, the Furious Five's characterizations, and key narrative themes. These efforts contributed to the film's strong box office performance worldwide and reinforced its identity as a universally appealing story that transcended cultural boundaries while maintaining specific cultural inspirations in design and thematic elements. Theme park integrations and experiential marketing expanded visibility and engagement further. Attractions based on Poe's adventures, martial arts demonstrations, and character meet-and-greet opportunities allowed fans to inhabit the world of Kung Fu Panda physically. These experiences reinforced brand presence, created shared cultural touchpoints, and translated cinematic storytelling into immersive, participatory entertainment. The integration of cinematic, digital, retail, and experiential marketing created a comprehensive brand ecosystem that ensured the franchise's visibility, longevity, and cultural relevance. Cross-promotional partnerships amplified marketing impact. Collaborations with apparel brands, school supplies, technology products, and media outlets allowed the film to maintain a constant presence in consumer consciousness. These partnerships were carefully aligned with the film's themes, aesthetics, and character identities, reinforcing brand consistency and ensuring that promotional activities enhanced, rather than distracted from, the narrative and emotional experience. Packaging, advertising, and interactive campaigns were designed to be visually cohesive with the film's animation style, color palette, and character design, reinforcing recognition and emotional attachment across platforms. Marketing strategies also leveraged the film's multi-generational appeal. Campaigns targeted children with humor, toys, and interactive experiences while appealing to adults through references to philosophical themes, martial arts culture, and narrative depth. This dual focus ensured that families could engage collectively, creating shared excitement and anticipation for the film's release. Promotions emphasized both entertainment and moral messaging, presenting Poe as a character who embodies humor, perseverance, and personal growth, further reinforcing emotional connection with audiences of all ages. Soundtrack releases, including original compositions, promotional singles, and thematic musical content, extended marketing reach and reinforced emotional resonance. Fans could engage with music outside the theater, creating familiarity with motifs, themes, and emotional cues associated with characters and story arcs. Musical marketing also encouraged audience interaction, such as singing along to favorite tracks, attending live performances, or sharing renditions online, integrating the auditory identity of the film into everyday cultural participation. This musical strategy strengthened the overall brand, aligning sound, character, and narrative into a coherent and memorable package. Overall, Kung Fu Panda's marketing, branding, and global reach demonstrate the strategic alignment of narrative, visual, and auditory elements with consumer engagement and cultural presence. Kung Fu Panda occupies a distinctive place within the history of animated cinema, offering a rich opportunity for comparative analysis with earlier animated classics, contemporary films, and other productions by the same studio. One of the film's most striking characteristics is its synthesis of traditional narrative structures with modern sensibilities, blending the classical hero's journey with humor, emotional nuance, and culturally inspired world-building. Unlike many early animated films that primarily relied on simple, linear storytelling aimed at children, Kung Fu Panda integrates multi-layered characterization, philosophical undertones, and cross-generational appeal, positioning it alongside a growing tradition of animated works that engage viewers on several levels simultaneously. Compared to early Disney classics, such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or The Lion King, Kung Fu Panda demonstrates both continuity and innovation. Like those earlier films, it relies on the hero's journey as a foundational narrative framework, tracing the protagonist's movement from insecurity and dependence toward mastery, self-discovery, and fulfillment. However, it subverts certain traditional expectations. Whereas classic Disney heroes often exhibit idealized physicality, charm, or elegance, Panda is designed as an unconventional protagonist whose appearance, size, and clumsy mannerisms make him relatable and humorous. This redefinition of the hero archetype represents a departure from established norms, expanding the possibilities for representation and audience identification in animated cinema. The film's humor, grounded in physical comedy, verbal wit, and cultural references, operates alongside emotional storytelling, creating a tonal complexity that was less common in early animation, which often prioritized spectacle or musicality over character depth. Visually, Kung Fu Panda draws inspiration from Chinese artistic traditions, martial arts cinematography, and stylized environmental design, creating a setting distinct from Western fairy tale or urban landscapes typical of earlier animated films. In comparison to the visually lush but Western-centric aesthetics of films like Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin, Kung Fu Panda emphasizes mountainous landscapes, bamboo forests, pagoda-inspired architecture, and color palettes inspired by Eastern art. This approach illustrates the increasing globalization of animated storytelling, where visual style is employed not only for aesthetic appeal but also to communicate cultural context, thematic resonance, and narrative identity. The integration of culturally influenced action sequences, dynamic camera perspectives, and stylized motion contributes to a cinematic sophistication that sets the film apart within the broader animated canon. The film also differs from other contemporary productions in its approach to humor and cross-generational engagement. While films such as Shrek or Madagascar incorporate humor designed to appeal to adults through satire and parody, Kung Fu Panda achieves similar multi-level appeal primarily through character-driven comedy, timing, and expressive animation. Poe's physicality, improvisational dialogue, and interactions with the Furious Five create humor that is immediately accessible to children while containing subtle narrative and philosophical elements that adults can appreciate. This careful balancing of humor, emotion, and action demonstrates the evolution of animated storytelling toward a more inclusive and nuanced approach, where comedic and emotional content can coexist and reinforce one another. Music and sound design provide another point of comparative interest. While classical animated films often integrated musical numbers as breaks or highlights, Kung Fu Panda employs score, diegetic sound, and selective musical cues to advance narrative, develop characters, and underscore emotional beats. Hans Zimmer's orchestral work, combined with traditional Chinese instrumentation, creates thematic cohesion and cultural texture, distinguishing the film from earlier works where music was primarily supplementary rather than integrally narrative. Sound design is similarly sophisticated, blending environmental effects, martial arts impact, and comedic cues to reinforce the visual narrative, demonstrating a comprehensive approach to auditory storytelling in animation. Character archetypes in Kung Fu Panda also reveal both continuity and innovation when compared to earlier and contemporary films. Poe's underdog hero archetype aligns with long-standing narrative traditions, but the film expands these conventions by integrating a diverse ensemble cast with complex personalities and relational dynamics. The Furious Five exemplify variations on skill-based archetypes, each contributing unique abilities, temperaments, and narrative significance. The antagonist Tai Lung is similarly multidimensional, with a backstory and emotional motivation that provide context for his actions, contrasting with simpler villain archetypes in earlier animation. These choices reflect the increasing sophistication of character-driven storytelling in modern animation, where emotional depth, relatability, and narrative complexity are prioritized alongside action and humor. Narrative structure and pacing also demonstrate evolution in animated storytelling. Kung Fu Panda balances exposition, character development, training sequences, comedic beats, and climactic confrontation with precision, allowing the story to appeal to both children and adults. In contrast, earlier animated works often followed more rigid, linear structures with emphasis on spectacle, musical set pieces, or moral messaging. Kung Fu Panda integrates multiple narrative elements organically, demonstrating that contemporary animation can sustain complex arcs while maintaining accessibility and engagement for varied audiences. The film's thematic content distinguishes it within animated cinema. Themes of self-discovery, identity, perseverance, and mentorship are explored with nuance, avoiding the binary moralism of earlier fairy tale adaptations. Poe's journey emphasizes embracing one's individuality, creative problem-solving, and resilience in the face of challenges, offering moral lessons that resonate without being prescriptive. The antagonistic arc of Tai Lung introduces moral complexity, showing consequences of ambition and resentment while allowing viewers to empathize with the character's internal struggle. These layered thematic explorations represent a broader trend in animation towards sophisticated, emotionally resonant storytelling that acknowledges human complexity. Comparisons with other productions by the same studio highlight consistent strengths and evolution. Previous works demonstrate technical skill, attention to visual detail, and humor, but Kung Fu Panda synthesizes these elements into a narrative that balances spectacle, emotion, and philosophical depth. Animation quality, character design, and environmental richness surpass many earlier projects, reflecting both technological advancements and deliberate artistic choice. The film demonstrates the studio's commitment to combining technical excellence with compelling storytelling and culturally nuanced world-building, contributing to its distinction within the animated film landscape.